Welcome to Spiritual Calisthenics. On July 15th, we commemorate the holy martyrs, Cyricus and his mother Julitta, as well as Saint Vladimir, equal to the apostles of Kiev, the finding of the head of Saint Matrona of Chios, Saint Donald and his 9 daughters, as well as Saint Swithun, Bishop of Winchester. Regarding Saint Julitta, equal to the apostles of Kiev, Saint Julitta was from the city of Iconium. Saint Vladimir ascended the throne of Kiev in 980. Cyricus, who was though a zealous idolater, he was illumined by the grace of God, finding the accepted the Christian faith. She went over to Tarsus, changed his ways, where he was baptized in Cherson in 988, took her son receiving the name Basil, and tried with flatteries to draw the youth to font, not only healed of the blindness lately afflicting him, but also from being passionate and kicked the ruler in the belly so hard that the tyrant became enraged and cast him down. Whereas his grandmother tried to choose marriage with the emperor in Constantinople, the child's head was crushed, and he married Anna, sister of Emperor Basil and Constantine. She first endured many torments home by finally Constantinople, diligently seeking to spread Christianity throughout his realm like a new Christ God's rational destroyed the isles, with holy Cyricus, chief deity offspring, stood at the judgment seat, and with authority and summoned great boldness to holy baptism, they proclaimed the true faith of the Christians. In the year no wise were they afraid of the threats of the tyrants. Thou now like a merchant who seeketh the godly, they both rejoice sovereign Vladimir, as they stand sitting on the height of the throne of the mother of the martyrs of Christ, the chaste Julitta, in her arms searching and sending to the imperial city to know, stating with manful courage, thou didst find boundless joy, priceless pearl. Thou art who chose thee as the martyrs Paul, Christ my God. Shake off thy spiritual and bodily blindness, in like manner to Saint Sophia, shows herself to be a true mother, thy fallen Christian virtue. Pray that thy land of Russia be saved, Christ, and that Orthodox people be granted peace and great mercy. Like the great Apostle Paul, most glorious Vladimir, himself to be in more that maturity, that thou didst forsake all zeal for idols, and a childish sophism, their intercession, as a full-grown man, thou wast adorned with the royal purple of divine baptism. And now, as thou standest enjoying the presence of Christ our Savior, pray that thy land of Russia be saved, and the Orthodox people be granted peace and great mercy. Some additional, who was 3 years old, departed for Prince Vladimir. But finding Prince Vladimir began to recognize that pagan gods were unable to unify where the ruler arrested as the people of Russia. He took her son from her, becoming interested in the question of faith while planning a campaign against the Eastern Roman Empire. He sent embassies to the neighboring states of Bulgaria, Khazar, and Byzantium to examine the tyrant became enraged. The ambassadors cast him down the steps, declaring that the Islam of Bulgaria is too unhappy. The child's head was crushed. The fact that Islam bans fermented drink and pork does not set well with the Russians. She first endured many torments, imagine life without finally was beheaded, especially the drink. 296. Vladimir himself rejected Judaism as our neighbor. Christ God's rational said that the Jewish lost at Jerusalem and its temple, her 3-year-old that God had forsaken, stood at the judgment seat. As for German Catholicism, the ambassadors describe it as plain and the true faith of the Christians. Their impression of the faith of their wives were they afraid of the threats altogether different. And now in heaven, upon attending the service, they both rejoice Sophia Cathedral in Constantinople. Our God. They report as the martyrs of Christ, the chaste Julitta, and we went into the Greek lands, Cyricus, and we were led out in a place where they served their God, and boundless joy. We did not know where we were. Thou art strength of the martyrs, O Christ my God. And do not know how to tell about this. In like manner to all we know shows is that God lives there in Christian people, and their service is better than in any other country. We cannot forget that beauty, since each person, only as a 3-year-old, something sweet, will not take something more bitter afterward than any. So we cannot remain any more in paganism. Through their intercessions, this was the testimony that led Vladimir to say, "I will embrace the religion of my grandmother, Kyrikos the martyrs." Regarding Saint Julitta and Kyrikos the martyrs, Saint Julitta was from the city of Iconium. Fearing the persecution of Diocletian, she took her son Cyricus, who was 3 years old, and departed for Seleucia. But finding the same evil there, she went over to Tarsus in Cilicia, where the ruler arrested her. He took her son from her, and tried with flatteries to draw the youth to himself. But the little one, in his childish voice, called the name of Christ, and kicked the ruler in the belly so hard that the tyrant became enraged, and cast him down the steps of the tribunal. In this manner, the child's head was crushed, and he gave up his spirit. As for his blessed mother, she first endured many torments, and finally was beheaded in the year 296. Blessed Julitta, the Christ God's rational ewe lamb, with holy Cyricus, her 3-year-old offspring, stood at the judgment seat, and with authority and great boldness they proclaimed the true faith of the Christians. In no wise were they afraid of the threats of the tyrants, and now in heaven, wearing precious crowns, they both rejoice as they stand before Christ our God. As the martyrs of Christ, the chaste Julitta, in her arms bare Cyricus, She cried out in the stadium with manful courage and boundless joy, "Thou art strength of the martyrs, O Christ my God." St. Julitta, in like manner to St. Sophia, shows herself to be a true mother in Christian virtue, raising her child to love Christ with all of his soul and with all of his heart. And only as a 3-year-old, St. Cyricus shows himself to be more manly than any gladiator in the arena of faith. Through their intercessions, may Christ our God bring us peace. The readings are according to the feast of St. Cyricus and his mother Julitta. From St. Paul's first letter to the Corinthians. Brethren, when I was a child, I spoke like a child. I thought like a child. I reasoned like a child. St. Paul says this as sort of a double entendre because St. Paul was educated by the great Gamaliel. He was one of the smartest Israelites of his time, and yet he considered his time before Christ childish, immature, incorrect. When I became a man, I gave up childish ways. For now we see in a mirror dimly, but then face to face. Now I know in part, then I shall understand fully, even as I have been fully understood. Meaning that even now, Paul doesn't fully understand Christ. But in the end, when he is with God in paradise, he will understand him. And the reason why this reading is so important is because little Cyricus is a 3-year-old child, and yet he understands Christ better than almost any of us. So faith, hope, love, abide. These 3, but the greatest of these is love. And as I said earlier, St. Sophia is allegorical in this, because she, in raising her daughters, made sure that they had those key virtues of faith, hope, and love. Make love, selfless love, agape, your aim, and earnestly desire the spiritual gifts, especially that you may prophesy. Prophecy meaning to be able to speak with God. For one who speaks in tongues speaks not to men, but to God. For no one understands him, but he utters mysteries in the Spirit. On the other hand, he who prophesies speaks to men for their upbuilding and encouragement and consolation. He who speaks in tongues edifies himself, but he who prophesies edifies the church. Now I want you all to speak in tongues, but even more to prophecy. He who prophesies is greater than he who speaks in tongues, unless someone interprets, so that the church might be edified. Meaning that speaking in tongues, being able to speak a language that no one understands, doesn't benefit anybody. The Gospel according to St. Matthew. At that time the collectors of the half-shekel tax went up to Peter and said, "Does not your teacher pay the tax?" He said, "Yes." When he came home, Jesus spoke to him first, saying, "What do you think, Simon? From whom do kings of the earth take toll or tribute? From their sons or from others?" And when he said, "From others," Jesus said to him, "Then the sons are free. However, not to give offense to them, go to the sea and cast a hook, and take the first fish that comes up. And when you open its mouth, you will find a shekel. Take that and give it to them for me and for yourself." Meaning that Christ is obeying the laws of the land, but trying to show the spirituality behind this as to why it is improper. At that time, the disciples came to Jesus saying, "Who is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven?" And calling him a child, he put him in the midst of them and said, "Truly I say to you, unless you turn and become like children, you will never enter the kingdom of heaven." Now, this is a different allegory to what St. Paul was talking about. St. Paul was talking about his childishness as immaturity, not purity. Christ is referring to this child as pure. And St. Cyricus, who we commemorate today with his mother Julitta, amplifies this purity, the purity of heart, that as Christ said in the Gospel according to St. Matthew earlier in the Beatitudes, "He who is pure of heart, blessed is he who is pure of heart, for he shall see God." And so St. Cyricus is able to see Christ. And so St. Cyricus is able to enter into the kingdom because he has this purity that Christ is talking about. Whoever humbles himself like this child, he is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven. So if we humble ourselves, not to be egotistical, not to be desiring praise, not to be desiring glory, but to be simple like a child who just wants to be with God, who just wants to love God as Father, Then we can have the kingdom of heaven. May the memories of St. Cyricus and his mother Julitta fill us with joy that we too may behold God in our sight. I hope that you've enjoyed today's spiritual calisthenics. Have a blessed and wonderful day.